Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this post-game edition of the show. That just reminded me I needed to change our banner here. Messed it up. There we go. That's better. It's a post-game edition of the show.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I caught it just now. I said Tennessee Volunteers live, probably right as I was looking at it, and forgot to change it. So we got that fixed now. Glad that all of you are here with us tonight on this Saturday after a Tennessee win. If you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. We are live every Monday night at 8 Eastern Time. That is different this week, but we'll elaborate on that a little bit later on. But overall, nice win for Tennessee today. They get it done 42-9 against New Mexico State. I kind of hate the fact that bye games are still being played in November. I'm glad that they're getting rid of these next year because honestly, I had an opportunity to go to the game if I wanted to this weekend. I decided not to. I was like, you know what? There's plenty of better games on TV today than this one. Sure enough, there have been, and we'll talk about them later on, both in the show and then, of course, on Monday when we get to that. But I'm very glad that I didn't go, just because this is a game that Tennessee won big, but at the same time, you're just kind of mildly disappointed at what happened in the game. Not the fact that Tennessee just didn't play well. It's just like, you know, they're maybe a little disinterested. They're looking ahead to Florida, which is common when, you know, Florida is following a bye game, which it has in many years when it's being played in September. This is the case in November this time around. But, Jordan, what are your initial thoughts on Tennessee getting it done against the Fighting Aggies of New Mexico State?
Well, my initial thoughts is what was going on in that drive in the third quarter where I got it listed right here. It was Wendell Moy, Kitzelman, Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, and then I think on the next drive after, Brian Grant got hurt too. But the first four players I mentioned all went down on the same drive. Like, what is going on?
Jordan, the Brian Grant thing is the injury teams thing. Yeah, that's not anything crazy. We know what happened there. The other ones, I don't know what exactly happened. Deshaun Bishop, I think he'll be just fine. It looked like he walked off on the sideline doing fine. Peyton Lewis, I'm a little more concerned about. Same thing with Wendell Moy because he was down for a bit. Looked like Kitzelman just got run into a little friendly fire there from Peyton Lewis, oddly enough. But, you know, you got a guy in Ethan Davis that you trust there as well at tight end. It's not as if Kitzelman is your end-all be-all there, which I'm kind of glad that he's not, just based on everything that's happened this year.
Yeah, me too. I mean, not that he's played terrible this year, but I was expecting bigger things from Kitzelman on the season. But haven't seen as much as I had hoped from him. But, I mean, outside of the injuries and everything, I mean, I feel like we got to see a couple people that stood out today. I mean, David Hobbs, 9 tackles and 2 pass deflections. I mean, that's pretty impressive from a defensive tackle. I mean, he's got an exciting future ahead of him. And then on top of that, too, I mean, Perlotti, like, I don't think he got many tackles in the game.
He had a big one, though.
He did.
Big one. Yeah.
He did, but it seemed like he was pressuring the quarterback like the entire game. So, I mean, it was exciting seeing him out there. I mean, Ty Redmond had a good first quarter. He had that one-handed pick, a couple of good tackles there. Yeah, I mean, it was good getting to see some of these younger guys starting to make some bigger plays. But, of course, I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see more McIntyre.
Yeah, well, I think you made a good point there. We need to give the defense its flowers for this game because, this is the first time they have allowed anybody to score less than 10 points, courtesy of a missed extra point late in the game. But you take that where you can get it. And, you know, in not in garbage time, they were able to hold them to just 3 points because that touchdown that New Mexico State scored was with the 2s and the 3s in at that point in the game. But you're right. You know, David Hobbs, his performance tonight, I think, goes to show you what you were missing from him or from that unit in the beginning of the year just because he was out the first 4 or 5 games of the season. So he stepped up big tonight. I thought he looked good. And you're right about Perlotti. That's a guy that's got a very bright future at Tennessee. He made that big hit at one point. He caused several things to happen in that game that I think really should give fans optimism about him going forward. And Redmond, too. I thought the secondary as a whole did a pretty nice job tonight, all things considered, just because they gave up pass plays, but not big ones for the most part. I know the one guy had to catch on Caleb Beasley where they declined I guess it was roughing the passer penalty early on in the game, but overall it was kind of a bend don't break performance from the defense. And I know it's hard to get too many takeaways from a game like this, especially late in the season, but you have seen it struggle a little bit against the pass in a game like this against UAB earlier in this season, which I think you are feeling better about the growth there, because the truth is, I mean, you lost a lot of guys in the portal last year in the secondary, and hindsight is always 2020, but you didn't know you were going to have all the injuries you did this year in the secondary. So I'm glad to see that unit do well in this game.
Yeah, and as these guys continue to get older too, I mean, you got to think that they're only going to get better. Like, I'm really excited. I mean, because Ty Redmond, he's been playing since the beginning of the year, and I mean, he's only a freshman. I mean, you get at least 2 more years out of him, and I mean, he can probably develop into a pretty good player for Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from a couple of the players out there, and I'm also excited too, just thinking about how, like, I mean, some of these other players that we're already used to during the season, I mean, they're on the younger side too. I mean, could have Bishop for a couple more seasons, and then like Staley as well. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom in Knoxville right now. I mean, I know that the playoffs, it's disappointing not being able to make it there, but I mean, there's some things to look forward to in the future. And then the 2026 class, once those guys start to get older too, I mean, I think Tennessee could put a pretty talented team together in the next couple of seasons.
I'll go and bury the lead here, but of course you guys probably saw it already. Oklahoma beat Alabama tonight, so doesn't absolve the disappointment that you had from that dark mode loss a couple weeks ago, but it doesn't make you feel nearly as terrible about it. We'll just put it that way. Oklahoma, by the way, I think they got outgained by almost 200 yards and only had 220 yards of offense in that game, or less than 220 yards of offense against Alabama, and won, which is impressive. The good teams find a way, and Oklahoma is certainly one of those. But speaking of Oklahoma, and it's something that actually hadn't been that good for Tennessee this year, that finally got in the right a little bit this time around, and that's the run game. You hope the run game would be something that you could try and fix against a team like New Mexico State. And Josh Heupel teams have always been able to run the football well, but you look at the games in SEC play this year, I mean, really, aside from Arkansas, you've not seen crazy high outputs on the ground. I mean, you weren't expecting it as much against Georgia. You could have had a high output on the ground against Mississippi State if you wanted it, but you just didn't decide to run the ball as much. Kentucky, you just had to throw it up to your receivers whenever you wanted to on offense, and you'd be just fine. They didn't really need to establish the run game there. And then, of course, Oklahoma, you were dreadful on the ground despite making plenty of efforts to get it there. But tonight you finished with, I believe it's 194 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. So good stuff from Tennessee there. I know it's New Mexico State, but this is the area of Tennessee's game that we're accustomed to seeing do well in the past, but just hadn't been quite itself this year.
Yeah, I mean, even Aguilar was running around a little bit there. I mean, I thought the running game was pretty good for the most part. I'm glad that they didn't really try to keep Bishop in too much after he went down and everything, because, I mean, the last thing that Tennessee needed this week was to get a whole bunch of players hurt in preparation for Florida. So hopefully all those players I mentioned earlier are able to get healthy and stuff for next Saturday, because it's going to be very important that Tennessee has all the guys that they can be healthy. But speaking of Joey Aguilar, I mean, what did you think about his performance today? Because, I mean, that second interception was definitely on him, and there's no arguments with that, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, Jordan. The 2 interceptions he threw. The one, the defender just made a nice play. The first one, at least, because Kitzelman has a chance to get that ball, and he just comes right underneath him. But oh man, that's 4 times now that Kitzelman has just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. 2 of which I think were absolutely on him. The other 2, not so much. The interceptions that Joey has thrown, but man, the second one, the defender made a nice play there. I forget who missed the block there. Maybe it was Umarov. But yeah, the interceptions are something that you knew you had to live with Joey potentially. You thought maybe the fact that a Heupel offense minimizes the turnovers a little bit for quarterbacks is something that you could maybe coach out of them a little bit, but that was not the case this time around, unfortunately for Tennessee, because he's got, 9 on the year now? I was counting him up earlier. But
I think it's 10, but I could be wrong.
Is it 10 now?
Yeah, because I think he had 8 going into this game, or at least like ESPN stats. I don't think they automatically update. They had him at 8. I'm refreshing. Yeah, they still have it at 8 on there, so I think he is at 10 now.
Okay, so the most turnover-prone quarterback that Josh Heupel has had, or at least interception-prone quarterback that he's had. But I think you live with those throws sometimes. You know, it's better than, say, what Nico did last year and not really trying to force the ball down the field. You can live with those from time to time, especially in a game like this where your defense is doing a good enough job. But interceptions aside, I think the performance from the ones on offense in this game was a little bit disjointed because you had the 2 interceptions, which were unfortunate. You had a 3-and-out at one point earlier in the second quarter. I forget when exactly. And then there was the one later on where you're coming out running the ball, the 2-minute drill. You throw one to Star, it's an incompletion, and I don't remember what happened on the last play of that one. I know one of the third downs that Tennessee did not convert on in the first half. Mike Matthews was streaking over the middle of the field, and Joey just didn't see him and decided to take off and run, which is something he shouldn't have done there. So a little bit of a disappointing end to the first half, I think, for them. It's a little strange. It's kind of like Georgia's defense this year, where you are just not sure about them for a lot of the game, and then they just have these spurts where they play well. I take that back. It's the opposite of the Georgia defense. You could see this team produce a lot on offense, but then there's always those like 2 or 3 possessions of the game where they just look lost out there, and that's what you see at the end of the half from this team. It's weird. I don't get it, but it happens from time to time. So that's not great. I think, again, that there's somewhat of a look-ahead factor there. Maybe just you're not as interested in going out and showing a ton of stuff against a team like New Mexico State than you are, say, anybody in SEC play, like Florida next week. You would for sure have a little bit more haste there in the 2-minute drill. Which, by the way, speaking of Florida, first 99-yard touchdown drive for Tennessee since that Florida game in 2022. So that was pretty cool. But 2 of the 3-and-outs were after that drive, which is so weird. Like, this team can be masterful on offense one possession, and then you question how they even belong on an SEC football field the next. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's like they don't always feed off their own momentum, and you think they would. I mean, because I believe football a lot of time is a momentum game. And I mean, if you throw like a pick 6 that's early in the game, that's going to destroy your quarterback's confidence a little bit. But Tennessee's made plays throughout the season where you'd think they'd capitalize off of them more, and they just don't for whatever reason. But you mentioned Star Thomas having a pass attempted to him earlier in the game. I was thinking, because, I've been thinking more about Bishop as of late because he's been more productive recently. But Star Thomas, I'm just now remembering like how good of a pass catcher he was at not only like New Mexico State, but at Duke. And then Tennessee hasn't really done a whole lot with them this season. Like I don't know what his season stats are. I got him pulled up right here. Yeah, he's only got 77 yards this year when he's gotten nearly 200 at during all his other seasons. So a little disappointing that we haven't gotten him more involved in the pass game because, I mean, I feel like Star Thomas could be a threat there, but maybe that's just not Josh Heupel's real scheme.
Yeah. I mean, he's a better pro style back than I think a lot of these guys are just for that reason alone. The fact that he can make plays out of the backfield, catching the football. Also, shout out Star Thomas for scoring on his old team. That's always nice. But he was able to do that tonight. I think every single running back scored a touchdown in this game because Peyton had the one where he got helped off the field, and then I know Bishop had the one early on in the game where Brazel almost broke the plane but didn't. Overall, not a super productive game for Tennessee in the air. I know they went for 219 with Joey, and they threw that one pass just to get him over that mark. Or was it 219 with Joey? It probably wasn't. No, it was 204 with Joey. I stand corrected. So you got the ball to Staley a few times. He had the touchdown pass. Mike Matthews did not have a catch until the second half, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had Brazel with the long one early on in the game. He got a couple more looks. 3 catches for 65 yards is what he goes with. Again, I think part of it is just the fact you're playing against New Mexico State. You're not trying to do anything too crazy in a game like this, and you are trying to run out the clock for the most part, even though Tennessee did experiment a little bit at the end of the game with the new quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting how they handled that situation because I was monitoring Joey Aguilar's stats throughout the game, and I know that everyone knows at this point his 200-yard consecutive streak. And then I was like, are they going to put him in on this next drive? And they put him in for, I think, one play just to make a screen pass throw to get those yards, and then took him right back out. But I was shocked seeing Merklinger being the first one to come in. Like, I know he's the second quarterback on the depth chart, but I feel like the future is more in McIntyre's hands. And then once I saw Merklinger in, I don't know how you felt, Tucker, but I mean, I felt like it was more of what we've said throughout the season. Like, he didn't really have much pocket awareness out there. I mean, not that he played terribly because he didn't play much at all, but I mean, he doesn't seem like he's going to be Tennessee's starting quarterback next season.
Well, I said to you off air before we got on here, maybe Josh just did that to prove a point, I guess is what he decided to throw him out there for. I don't really have any other great answer for you. I just don't see a way he ends up being here in a month. I don't want anybody to walk away from this program. I would love for everybody to enjoy their time as a Tennessee ball, but the truth is, if you can't be good enough to see the field, then you're best off looking elsewhere if you're trying to play in college, which is totally fine if it happens. That said, we should talk about this a little bit because it was something the two of us were looking for going into the week, because you wondered how Josh Heupel would manage this game down the stretch. Would he try and run out the clock, or would he see what he had with his two quarterbacks that are behind Joey Aguilar and Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre? First play that Merk got in, he about ran into a sack, which is not great to start. And I think the pass that he completed was for negative yardage, which you never want to see. And then he missed on another one over the middle later on in that possession. I think they ran the ball in the next play, but he didn't get many downs on that possession just because they went. Did they go 3 and out there? Because I know they had the pass with Joey there at the beginning of that possession, but I'm blanking on it. Anyway, Merklinger.
I think they did.
Merklinger did not have a long stay in the game. George, I think, looks more comfortable in the pocket. Obviously, you didn't see a ton of production just because of where they were in the game. He took the one shot down the field to, I think it was Radarius Jackson, but ended up being an incompletion. It's fine. He could take that shot. He threw the tight end screen pass that Cole Harrison almost fumbled away there, but Deshaun Brain was able to pounce on it. So overall, I think George looks more comfortable, but right now it's the same thing that Nico had to do when he initially got to Tennessee, where he needs to stack on the pounds. He needs to eat a little bit, lift a little more, put on some weight back there. That way you're not getting battered and bruised in SEC play worse than most of these guys are, because he looks really skinny back there right now.
Well, I feel like it's really easy to look skinny when you're 6'6" or
It
whatever
is.
he is. I think he'll put on I think he'll put on size on his frame. I think we were talking about this last week. Like I mentioned Tyler Bray. I mean, he looked like just as bad, or I'm not, maybe I shouldn't say bad, but just as skinny as George McIntyre, like when he came into Tennessee. And then by the time his sophomore season, I mean, he clearly put on about 25 pounds. I think the same will be the case with McIntyre too. But I think it's going to be interesting next season because, I mean, during this offseason, everyone was wondering who's Tennessee's starting quarterback is going to be. And obviously, it ended up being Joey Aguilar, and he's performed pretty well given the circumstances. But I think like that question is going to be opened up again next season. I mean, of course, like Merklinger, if he's still on the team, I mean, he's going to be trying to compete out there. And then McIntyre, I mean, you would think that he would get the upper hand in this situation. But Faison Brandon coming in too makes it a very interesting dynamic in there. And you're not going to be able to make all these quarterbacks happy. So it's going to be interesting to monitor that next season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that it's hard to sell to another quarterback that's coming out of the portal. Hey, you want to come be our insurance plan? Like nobody really wants to do that. And we thought that was going to be the case going into the season once Nico hit the portal in the spring and they got Joey. It's like, is Merklinger going to be the guy? Are they going to just get somebody out of the portal just to try and stay afloat? But it was pretty clear, I think, that neither one of those guys were the guy to Josh Heupel, so he decided to go and get Joey out of the portal, and it was a smart thing to do, evidently. So, hoping to see more of George here in the future. I know there's not really a ton of games where you can see that this year, as there are no bye games remaining on the schedule. And again, I think the less bye games we have, the better is the consensus on this show. Like I don't get much enjoyment out of them unless it's to see, the backups get in late in the game, early on in the season. I don't like them this late in the year just because it kind of disrupts the flow of everything. I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like it's hard to be like on point if you're like going deep in the SEC play, like like last game Tennessee had going into this one was Oklahoma, and that was a slugfest out there. And then you come back for New Mexico State, and then it's like, well, I mean, it kind of is like a bye week, and like, how does that really prepare you for Florida, which is coming up next week? I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm excited to see some more competition going on next season. I'm excited to see Georgia Tech, who nearly escaped today. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I looked at the final score on there and saw that it was really close there with Boston College, and I didn't realize Boston College was a 1-10 team.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody stayed close today. It feels like, especially in the SEC. And I'm sure we'll get into those games later on, especially on our show on Monday. But pretty wild week of games around this conference that have suddenly made the college football playoff race very, very interesting quickly. So I don't really have too much else on the offense or too much more on the offense because they only gave up the one tackle for loss today. I know the interception was forced because there was a missed block there early on in the game. But it's hard to be too judgmental because part of it is they just may not care as much about this game late in the season. So defensively, I know we've talked about this team a little bit already. They gave up 340 yards of offense. That's not including the twos, or it's not including what the ones alone did, I should say, because they did a very nice job today out there, and that's not something that we've seen for a lot of the season, but they slowed New Mexico State down, and you got in the backfield a little bit, which is good. You had a couple plays from what's his name, Perlotti.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice play there in the third quarter. It was third quarter, and then you mentioned David Hobbs earlier. The 2 interceptions, good to see Ty Redmond get that. He is now the leader for interceptions on this team. Also, shout out William Wright, walk-on, who famously played that last possession of the Alabama game. feel like that's what everybody remembers him for. But he gets a pick six in this game. He's been around for 4 years, so always good to see the walk-ons make some plays every now and again too. And even outside of him, like I know it was Trey Poteet who had that nice PBU late in the game where they're making that over-the-shoulder throw. He's looking back in coverage, has his head turned, and then he just sticks his hand up, makes a play on the football. I know it's tough as a defensive back to make the decision whether or not you want to read the quarterback's eyes or chase down the wide receiver, but he managed to do both there, so that's impressive stuff.
Yeah, I was impressed with the DB unit today. I mean, I also remember Caleb Beasley having a nice deflection as well. And I mean, Colton Hood, I think he had at least one in the game as well.
He the one, I think it was second quarter, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But yeah, he got one pass deflection in the game. But yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, David Hobbs too. I mean, he led the team in pass deflections for the game, which I mean, you like to see that. Get a little bit of JJ SWAT action in there. But yeah, I mean, I thought the defense was, I mean, I was more focused on the defense during this game than the offense anyways, because I mean, I feel like we already know what to expect from the most part. And I mean, same with the defense too, but it's just nice, like seeing some of these younger guys starting to stick out more because I mean, Tennessee's going to need them for the future. And one guy that I didn't mention earlier that I'm excited to see more from is Edwin Spillman. I think he's got a solid future at Tennessee as well. And these guys are only going to get better. I mean, especially too, I mean, Spillman and Perlotti, they are freshmen playing right now. And I was reading online that they are the first freshmen to start for Tennessee at the linebacker position since Henry To'oTo'o. And I know like Henry To'oTo'o leaves sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, but I mean, he was a talented player. I mean, he was like a 5-star recruit, came in and played. And, you know, Spillman and Perlotti are already starting to make some moves towards the end part of this season. And you just got to like it if you're a Tennessee fan. Yeah,
To'oTo'o, despite the fact how he left here, he was a very good linebacker for Jeremy Pruitt. He could have had a very fun career here had he stayed around. But you're right, the freshman, and you mentioned Spillman. Of course, he missed a lot of last season due to an injury, and that's why he redshirted. But he's gotten every ounce out of every rep that he's played this season, it feels like. And with Carter being hurt for a good chunk of the season, he's been able to get some of those valuable reps. So you'll see him in the mix more with T-Lander and Carter in the future. And the same goes for Perlotti as well. Perlotti's made some nice plays too. And then trying to think, who was the other one that got in? Was it Jaden Harmon, who had a nice play late in the game? Because he had a TFL or a sack at some point. I forget which.
Yeah, it was him. But like you mentioned Arian Carter, were they just not? I mean, because I wasn't aware of like anything with Josh Josephs and everything, and that he wasn't playing in the game and everything. Like,
yeah, I
were they just resting him for Florida?
I didn't notice Josephs. I figured Carter was not playing because I never saw him, and he had been dealing with that injury against Kentucky as well, so they didn't play him much. He got a little bit of run against Oklahoma, but not much. It's kind of like a, if we need you, we would appreciate it if you could go type situation with him. Obviously not a game where they really needed to use him this time around, so not overly surprising that they kept those guys out. Probably for the best. And your defense did just fine without them, so it's not as if not having them out there was a true detriment to this team in this game. But we do need to speak about detriments to this team because there's a certain one that was not in the building today, and I think it's pretty telling about his future in this program because his future is non-existent. And that is Boo Carter. Boo Carter had not gotten a single rep at defensive back against Oklahoma because he had not done well at Kentucky. And you have the bye week last week. You know, you're not talking as much about it. The fact that he didn't get reps there. And you just figure he's not going to in this game. Maybe he'll still get his punt returner reps and whatnot. But today they ruled him out with a quote-unquote hip flexor strain. Now, here's the thing. Maybe it's real. I'm not trying to speculate on whether or not a guy is hurt or not. I know that's a dangerous game to play. Sometimes you'll see a guy lying down on the grass, you start booing him, and then suddenly you realize, oh, wait, this guy actually really messed up his leg. This is not good. So I apologize if that is something that I did. I speculated on an injury there. But usually when guys are hurt and they're not like concussed and need to be in a dark room or something, they're going to show up and support their team. He was nowhere to be seen today per multiple different sources. And if that is not the nail in the coffin of his very sad Tennessee football career, at least spanning in the year 2025, because he was full of promise in 2024, but once Colorado, Nico, and a few extra $1 million got involved, it all got to his head. I don't know what is the nail in the coffin then, because he's been returning punts basically all season since the ETSU game, just because you didn't like what you had with Morris and Staley back there. But now it is even more apparent that he's not going to be wearing the Tennessee orange next season. He's probably going to be playing for Dion up there in Boulder or somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the case is closed on Boo Carter at this point. I mean, he's one of the more disappointing players I can think of at Tennessee in a while. I mean, just like there was so much high hopes with him. I mean, he looked electric during his freshman season. I mean, he was coming in here and he was preseason all SEC, and then he's not even getting defensive reps. They don't even start him at punt returner to start the year. I mean, it just seems like issue after issue with all the Facebook posts that were going around. And even if he does have a hip flexor injury, I mean, you can, if you go to enough high school football games, you're gonna at least see like one kid with one of those little, I don't even know what you call them, but it's like one of those wheeled things where they rest their knees on it. They'll still be there on one leg watching their team play with like a hoodie on and their jersey over it. But a hip flexor issue, I mean, I'm not trying to compare myself to a college football athlete. I got hip problems as well. But I can't imagine hip problems being bad enough to not watch your team play. As someone that's already dealt with the little hip issues before, it's not that serious more often than not, especially if it's only like a strain too. I mean, you can at least sit there, I would think. So, I mean, I don't know where Boo Carter was today, but you would think that he would be on his sideline trying to support his team. And I don't know what the scenario is, but I'm pretty sure that the case is closed on him. I don't think he's going to be wearing orange next season.
Yeah.
Or at least not in Tennessee.
Yeah. And they're not, none of his teammates are playing defense for him in front of any media members or whatnot. I know all these people are media trained, and Josh Heupel was pretty much saying, yeah, he's trying to take different steps to work his way back into the mix before the season began. I guess they felt he did enough to get back there, but it's just clear he's not interested in being here right now. And I think that's what is so sad about all this, is that he had a promising season last year. You come out and you have a good year this year. Maybe you earn that pay raise that you thought that you were deserving of. And one of the conditions of him staying here was, yeah, I'm going to play a little bit of offense next season. He's not played any offense at all. In fact, it's been far from it. I'm glad that Tennessee is setting a little bit of a precedent here with some of these guys that think they are worth more than they are, because the whole idea of maxing out earnings in college is just goofy, because you're only in college for 4 years. And if you prove that you're good enough in college, you can make it to the NFL, and then you can do that. Then it's at least fair, but not here, not right now. So it's really sad. We say it all the time that this has happened, but I don't see a way he continues here. I really don't.
No, and I'm curious to see how his career turns out in general because I feel like he's set such a bad precedence amongst the media that I mean his reputation's tarnished in a way. Like I know he's a talented player, maybe he can rebound at a lower tier school or something and be able to right some of his wrongs, but I feel like he's going to have to be a phenomenally good player for NFL teams to overlook all the offseason drama. I mean, I think that he's kind of dug himself into quite a big hole that's going to be hard to get out of. I mean, because people pay attention to these things. I mean, they're measuring quarterbacks' hand sizes every year and stressing about that. And you don't think they're going to look into off the field issues as well? I mean, I think it's an uphill battle for Boo Carter moving forward. And it's sad because he has all the talent in the world. He could have been a great player at Tennessee. He's still got potential to be a great player elsewhere, but I mean, he's put himself behind the eight ball. And I think that there's really not anyone to blame but himself and how he's handled the situation.
Yeah, one more thing on Boo that has kind of stuck out to me is he is, I believe, one of these kids that has transferred multiple times in his career before college, and not as if he has done it every year. Like I know Tennessee had a basketball player a few years ago. Some of you remember him, Brandon Huntley Hatfield, who had transferred, I think, different times in high school. Like had just kept moving around. Got to Tennessee, and then he bounced to Louisville, and then to NC State. He's not at NC State right now. I don't know where he is now, but I think it was Rusty Manziel, who covers Georgia for On3, who said this in the offseason. I think it may have been on that SEC podcast, but what is the benefit of doing that before you get to the NFL? Like, obviously, contracts are contracts. You don't always renew them. You want to find a deal with another team. It is what it is. But when you're that age, you're trying to form relationships with people. And, you know, I think he mentioned there was a guy that he knew who walked on at Georgia, didn't see the field a ton, but he had all these doors opened for him in life because – you know, he stayed the course there at Georgia, and he made some relationships with people who helped him get to where he wanted to be in life. You don't get that when you hop around 4 or 5 different times in schools, because they were specifically talking about what Nico was doing, going from Tennessee to UCLA and then just potentially doing it out of money. Because here's the thing, once you leave a school like this, unless it's, you know, a situation like, say, Jarrett Garantano, where really your only option is to get out just because of how poorly things have gone. And then also, you know, the investigation did not help that by any means. But, you know, once you leave that school willingly, you burn all those bridges with the people and an alumni network that supported you at that school. And I think that is unfortunately going to be the case with Boone, no matter what happens with him. Like, you know, you'll like having the guy around for a year if you're at the school where he's going and he does a good job out there. But it's just it's sad, man. It like that has effects past your football playing career, is I guess is the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he played at several different high schools. I actually didn't know that about Boo Carter.
He played at least 2 different ones, to my knowledge. I think it could have been Chattanooga Central. Maybe it's Chattanooga Christian. I forget which. And then Bradley Central, I know for sure he played at. So a lot of these kids, they move around before. Like, and this has happened in basketball too. There was a kid who moved to actually Brentwood from California, transferred to Innsworth or to BA, then to Innsworth, then somewhere else, started playing or committed to Kentucky for basketball, transferred to Illinois, then transferred to Louisville, then transferred to UCLA, where he's been for a couple years now. But like all that hopping at that age, it makes no sense because all of your relationships with people are very superficial. And I know we're just a football show and we don't like to get that deep on here all the time, but like when you're constantly moving around in life like that, especially at a young age, and you're trying to make your way into something. How is that going to benefit you in the long run?
I mean, I think it's got to be difficult. I mean, I've known people personally that have like moved around a lot, and I mean, it's hard to develop relationships that can be long lasting when you do that. And you would have to imagine like moving around a lot in high school, that's got to have an effect on your psyche, especially because that's pivotal years where you're trying to grow and try to mature into an adult. And if you can't have like a few couple people to rely on, because at the end of the day, we're human beings, we're social creatures. We need friends, we need good bosses, good leaders around us. And I mean, it's hard to do that if you're moving around all the time. So I mean, taking football out of it, I mean, I feel bad for Boo Carter in general because it's got to be harder for him to maintain personal relationships in his life. I mean, forget about football. I mean, and I don't know, like he's just such a talented player, or he can be, and it's just disappointing to see all this stuff start to crumble for him in ways, considering he's so young. Like he's got to be only like what, like 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, it can't be older than 20, I wouldn't think.
No, and then and I'll tell you too, I mean, as most guys know, like, you don't really fully start maturing it, until, like, after, like, 21 too. I mean, so, I mean, hopefully, he can find a good mentor, a good leader that can try to help him pull him out of the situations and stuff, but, I don't know. It's gotta be tough for Boo Carter moving around a lot, and, I mean, it looks like that's what he's gonna do again in the offseason, but, hopefully, it goes good for him because you don't wanna see bad things happen to people. I mean, because they're humans at the end of the day. I mean, take off the pads, they're just normal people like us. So best of luck for Boo Carter, um, even if he wasn't able to make it here at Tennessee.
Yeah, part of the problem, Jordan, is some of these players have bad people in their ears that are trying to influence them. As we saw with a certain quarterback in LA who is, by the way, not playing against Ohio State today because he has a concussion. Again, not questioning the fact that he has a concussion, but he very suspiciously had one akin to that last year at this time, and he still played the next week. I don't understand anything that's going on with that family. They're weird. But back to Bill Carter, I think it is a big loss for the special teams unit because watching the game today, they made the one nice play on the kick return where they had the tackle within the 15-yard line. Now, New Mexico State did get the ball a few more yards down the field to get out of too precarious of a situation, but that was also the possession where they picked him off with Ty Redmond there in the I think that was first quarter, maybe.
Yeah.
So they made a nice play there, but there were some other moments like, and I'm not pinning this on DeJuan Morris, but he let the ball roll, I think, within the 1 yard line. And that was the possession where they started. Yeah, it was the 99-yard drive because they started the drive in the first quarter and it ended sometime in the second quarter. But I'm not pinning him on that because I think he was trying to do the thing where he dupes the Gunners and they let the ball roll into the end zone, but the Gunners got there just in time to keep the ball out of the end zone. But there was, I think it was the opening kickoff of the second quarter. Peyton Lewis is back there returning, and he catches the ball right as it's about to go out of bounds. And he called fair catch there, so it's not a total loss, but I feel like you got to have some awareness in that situation. Like, let that football roll out of bounds. That way you can get an extra 10 yards out of it. That's just not showing good football smarts right there. And I don't know how you fix that over time, how you get those mental mistakes out. But this is still a group that I think has to have a little bit more of a positive impact on the game than what we've seen in order for Tennessee to be successful in the long haul.
Yeah, and that play that you're talking about with Peyton Lewis, I was doing something walking by the TV when it happened, and I stopped everything I was doing. I was like, "What in the world just went on?" Like, I wasn't paying full attention at that time, and I thought that he he just walked out of bounds for no reason,
Yeah.
and I was about to have a conniption until I heard that he called a fair catch right there. But still, man, like I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, at least it's not the dumbest thing we've ever seen in a Tennessee game with a kickoff like that. What was that? The Gator Bowl, where the Iowa return man is running out of bounds, and right as he's running it out of bounds, he pushes it forward. You remember that play? It's one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in a Tennessee football game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I just remember seeing that live because Tennessee was up like 3 touchdowns at that point because they jumped on him early down there in Jacksonville. But I just remember thinking, what on earth is that guy doing? Did he just give Tennessee another free possession? But no, you can't throw the ball forward out of bounds on a kickoff. That's called an illegal forward pass. You can't be doing that. But this group it does need to improve a little bit here in the future. I think you have to find a way to positively impact the game. Max Gilbert, no field goals attempted tonight, just extra points, which, by the way, I tweeted this during the game. In both of Tennessee's games against group of 5 teams this year, he has been roughed on an extra point in the first quarter because he got roughed in this game. The UAB game was the one where he got stomped on. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. But that's true. It happened. Only real special teams blunder tonight was Carson Gentle leveling that guy after he had gone out of bounds.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, immediately when that happened, I was like, "Oh no!" I mean, maybe like 15 years ago they would have let that fly. Like, I feel like for sure. You don't think so?
I wouldn't.
I didn't
think
see
so.
the actual replay. I mean, it looked like
he was very obviously out of bounds, and Heupel gave him a death stare.
I heard about the death stare. I was hearing the announcer saying that, but I mean, when I initially saw the play going on, it looked like clean by like football standards. But I was like, man, if you just hit someone that hard, like going out of bounds, even if they haven't stepped out, they're probably going to throw the flag.
Yeah. I guess one other thing I have. What are your thoughts on the Smoky Grays after having seen them in action this time around?
Actually, not as bad live, and I thought it was going to be that way too, because I think sometimes it's easier to be critical on them. I mean, I'm not in love with them by any means. I feel like I don't know what the exact meaning is. I know it's somewhat military related with the little patterning. On the helmet, it's fine. On the shoulder pads, I wasn't really feeling it as much. I feel like it would have looked better if they would have took the stripes off the jersey.
Yeah, I think so too. But I thought overall they were fine. I don't know. It's just like sometimes when they play these games in the Smoky Grays, there's weird vibes like the Austin P game. I kind of felt that way at the beginning of this game just because Tennessee wasn't exactly blowing New Mexico State out. They weren't cruising along in the first half, but I don't know. Part of that is, again, like we said, just maybe not wanting to show too much in a game like this. And you've already, you don't want to get any risk anybody getting hurt, even though you did have a few people leave the game with some apparent injuries there toward the end. But overall, I'd say this is a nice win for Tennessee. You improved to 7-3. You got 2 games left on the schedule. Have not checked to see what the Gators are up to right now. They're up 21-20.
Really?
Actually, this is with 45 seconds remaining in the first half. So we will see how that game ends. I do not want to see them have life going into that game next week, because if they do, then suddenly it gets a little bit more dangerous down there.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything on the game yet. I'm excited to pull it up after we get off here. But apparently Lagway is starting the game right now, which I think could be a good sign for Tennessee if he continues to be the starter. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that game goes. I mean, I'm not surprised Florida is slightly ahead right now because I feel like Florida just thrives off of chaotic events out of nowhere.
Yeah, they're weird. They're so weird. They got drilled last week at Kentucky, and now they're making it a game at Ole Miss. They're about to score again too, so they could go up as much as 24 or 28-20 at half. Excuse me. But you have that game. Vanderbilt is off right now, so they will have Kentucky before they play Tennessee. Tennessee can still play spoiler in that game potentially, and I want to say if Kentucky wins at Vanderbilt, they get to a bowl game.
That's a big if for Kentucky,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, because you've won the 3 non-conference games against the FCS and Group of 5 teams, and you got the 2 SEC wins. So you just need one more to get to a bowl. Maybe motivated Mark Stoops can do it. We'll see. But I think it would take some of the allure away from that game in Tennessee, just with Vandy having lost that game, hypothetically speaking, if that were to happen. So, but that's what you got down the stretch. I feel like at the very least you got to go 1-1 to make yourself feel good about the end of the season. The good news is you've got 3 teams that are very much in college football playoff contention right now that you've lost to this season. So that way you don't feel unbelievably awful about those losses. But at the same time, had you done a couple other things right, you would have won those games, which still makes it sting a little bit. Georgia has the best record of all those teams. Alabama, of course, losing to Oklahoma today. And suddenly, you're looking at Oklahoma's path to the playoff a couple of weeks ago. You're thinking, oh, this is not so good. You lost to Ole Miss. You got Tennessee and Alabama left on the road. Well, guess what? They beat Tennessee and Alabama on the road. And their 2 home games are against a quarterbackless Mizzou and LSU, who just made a bowl game today. But aside from the Group of 5 team they play next week, you would not feel good about seeing them get a win in Norman. So I would say there is a very high possibility that Oklahoma is now competing for a CFP appearance. So, even if you were to go 2-0 down the stretch, 9-3, and all your losses are college football playoff teams, and you just consider everything that's happened this season, then that's still a pretty solid season by Tennessee standards. If you're not going to get into the college football playoff, it's the next best thing.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think in the scenario because, I mean, like Tennessee, their only 3 losses have been to some pretty good teams. But on the flip side, there hasn't been much like talent that Tennessee's face outside of that. I mean, it's weird to say, but if Tennessee does go 2-0 these next 2 games, then the best win in the season would be Vanderbilt, which is not something that you hear much. And speaking of Vanderbilt, I forgot that they had a bye week, and I had like a mini like panic attack for a second because I looked at the ticker, forgetting about basketball games going on, and I saw that Vanderbilt scored like 104 points, and my mind instantly thought that it was football, and I was like, this is not good. This is not good at all if they scored 104 points, but thankfully I was wrong about that one.
Yeah, they did score 70 for the first time in like 100 years this year against Georgia State because they were mad that they had lost that game last year, so they had to go out and have a little bit of a revenge outing. But no, what wacky and wild day in the SEC. I just checked the other scores. I saw Georgia is up 2 scores on Texas, which makes sense with that game being in Athens. And then, of course, you got Mizzou up on Mississippi State. But it's a close game. It's a close game. We'll see what happens in that game. If Mississippi State were to win, that's one bowl-eligible team that Tennessee's beaten this year. And who knows if Kentucky finds a way to win against either Vanderbilt or Louisville. Louisville, by the way, lost to Clemson last night, so you can't rule out a Kentucky win at Louisville. Maybe they are good enough to get into a bowl. They could go 7-5 at the very best. So it feels a little doubtful, but there is some renewed energy with Cutter Boley up there. So there's a chance for some more positive things to happen, but you've got to go out and make the positive things happen in the season if you're Tennessee.
Yeah, and I hope that Kentucky doesn't end up beating Vanderbilt because I'm so excited for the Tennessee Vanderbilt matchup because this has got to be like the biggest ones, at least of our lifetime, right? Like Tennessee and Vanderbilt, or at least for Vanderbilt's sake, it's got to be.
Oh yeah, for Vanderbilt's sake, it absolutely is.
And it would be such a nice consolation prize just to know that Tennessee kept Vanderbilt at their first ever playoff appearance because who knows if they'll ever make it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's about all I have for tonight, Jordan. Anything that we missed from the game that you saw? I think we covered most of the bases. Penalty's not a problem for Tennessee, by the way. 4 for 55 yards, I think, was what it ended up being. It may have been even less than that because I think one of the teams went 3 of 29. I forget who, but still not terrible compared to what we're used to.
Yeah, I don't really got anything left to say about the game. I feel like we covered it all, but I am so excited. Tennessee traveling to the Swamp next weekend. Hopefully can get it done. If not, then I might be 30 years old before I see Tennessee win in the Swamp, which I can't handle that. So Tennessee, they got to find a way to win. Got to.
No, I can't go from having just been born the prior season to my 27th year of life without having seen Tennessee win in the Swamp. That is not good. That is not good. Well, I think that is going to do it for us tonight here on the postgame show, here on the Tennessee at the Voice of College Football channel on YouTube. We appreciate all of you guys for joining us tonight. Again, if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. We are live every Monday at 8 Eastern Time, which we have a slight wrinkle in that this week. We're going live at 7 Eastern Time on Monday this week because all of you know Tennessee is playing a basketball game at 8:30 Eastern Time. Don't want to counter program with you guys watching the Vols play the Rice Owls in the Rob Lanier Classic. Former Tennessee assistant Rob Lanier bringing his team to town this week. So really excited to see what they do there. Have not heard from our host on the Florida channel in a little while. Hopefully he hits me back a little bit here soon, so we might have him on the show, talk a little bit about the matchup between the Vols and the Gators. I know it's very much basketball season down there. They're excited. They won a national championship the previous season. Football's not been as good for them this year, so they're looking forward to it. But that'll do it for us tonight. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. We will talk to you guys again on Monday.